Hi everyone, this is Annabella Rockwell, and today on Bellified, we're talking to Harrison Tinsley. You may have seen his story recently in the Daily Wire. Harrison was profiled as being a father fighting for custody for his 3-year-old son, a son whose mother is raising him to be a non-binary child. It's a heart-wrenching story, but I'm eager to hear Harrison's side and hear how the battle is going. So with no further ado, I give you Harrison Tinsley. Harrison, thank you so much for joining me tonight on Bellified. Now, you're here to tell me a little bit about your custody battle with your son, Sawyer. Would you mind sharing me a bit about where you are and just some background of why we're here tonight?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Annabella. Well, basically, a few years back, I was dating a girl in the Bay Area, and she ended up surprisingly getting pregnant, and we were both very happy about that fact, thankfully. And essentially, as time went on, she had a lot of mental illness problems, and she essentially tried her best to keep my son Sawyer from me. And so I fought in court. I filed 2 months after he was born. I missed his birth. I wasn't informed. I tried everything I could, and it took 13 months in court. So I met him when he was 15 months old, finally, right around my birthday at that time. And it was one of the best days of my life. And after that, I subsequently moved to the Bay Area and filed more stuff in court and won half custody. And after that, there were some safety concerns that arose regarding Sawyer, as well as some gender ideology being pushed upon him that I wasn't comfortable with. So it's just been a court battle ever since. And right now I'm in the process of an appeal of a trial we had that was 5 days long in San Francisco.
I'd like to hear a little bit more about the gender ideology that you were talking about. Will you elaborate? What do you mean?
Well, essentially, to be fair, I'm not with him when this happens, but his mother puts stress from I see from social media. People have shown me pictures of him in dresses or with makeup on. She is claiming to be treating him as if he's non-binary, which I don't believe is okay or healthy for him. And I've I've showed the court that I've done everything I can to put a stop to it. She's started identifying that way herself, and I'm thinking maybe she's trying to push that upon him.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
I don't think it's a I don't see how anyone could be happy to try to tell their kid to not be happy with who they are. I would think the thing you would want most for someone that you love so much would be to be happy with who they are.
Now, your son is 3 years old, correct?
Yep, 3 years and 5 months.
Do you remember being a 3-year-old boy?
Not even remotely.
Do you think that as a child you felt like you were a boy, or it just was because that's how you were treated?
I would think probably the latter. It just was because I was a boy. I probably knew I was a boy, and I don't think that was something I would even have questioned. I mean, I can tell you Sawyer completely knows he's a boy. He'll tell you that if you ask him. He'll get very upset if you say anything that he could even contemplate as possibly calling him a girl. He'll start to yell at you. So it's actually it's not a good thing for him, and he's very aware he's a boy. He loves
So
being a
he's
little boy.
Sawyer has never come forward and said, like, Daddy, I feel like a girl today. I want to wear a dress.
Not at all. He very much the opposite. He's a total boy's boy. He'll play in the mud, ride bikes, scooters, motorcycles, football, hockey. Like he's just total little boy.
Does he take after his dad in that regard?
He's a complete mini dada in every way. Yeah.
That's so sweet. So I just want to take a step back because it's really startling that you found out about this through your friends sending you, screenshots of social media posts from Sawyer's mom. You had no idea that she was doing this. I mean, if she dropped him off for you to see him, would he be in a dress or was he dressed like a little boy? I mean, did he tell you about this, or has all of this just been hidden from you?
Well, so she actually treated him as a boy for like his first year and a half of life,
Hmm.
from what I gather from social media. But when she gives him to me, he's almost always dressed as a boy.
Hmm.
I've seen a pink shirt on him that, and maybe like a girl's diaper is about as far as I've seen when he's exchanged to me.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, social media, just randomly, someone showed me a picture of him in a dress, and then more pictures of all this non-binary and weird stuff. It's totally shocking,
Hmm.
unacceptable. it's really scary. I mean, you think of like who you love most in the world's your son,
Mhm.
and then to see that is it's just heartbreaking.
When Sawyer's mom was pregnant with him, did she ever talk about, not believing in a gender binary, or she didn't want to find out the sex of your son? Was there any kind of inkling that maybe, this was going to come up as an issue?
Yeah, so we discussed it. She brought it up once and maybe twice and was really upset that I was like, oh, I wouldn't be down for that. When he's 18, he could perhaps make his own decision, but I would never let my own son, pretend he's something he's not. I'd want him to be happy with who he is. And there was a social media post on Facebook. I think it was the first time she ever announced that she was pregnant. It was like
Mhm.
baby Sawyer coming soon. And she was like, whether you're a boy or a girl or neither, I'll love you no matter what. So there was some evidence or whatever you want to call it to suggest that. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of laying the groundwork to force you to be okay with it. It
Right.
sounds like it was a little bit personal for her. Now, you said that she is also identifying as non-binary right now?
To the best of my knowledge, yeah, that's what she said at court during the trial in
Okay.
December.
And have you been in contact with her at all?
Well, I see her sometimes when we exchange Sawyer.
Mhm.
Um, she looks like a girl to me, but I don't I don't know what she does.
And of course, I know that you're in court, so everything we talk about, I want to be sensitive to that. But you did mention, or the Daily Wire article that you're featured in mentioned that Sawyer's mother has maybe battled with some mental health issues. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, well, so when I dated her, I was aware of that too, not to the extent that I am now. Um, but she just battles some serious personality disorders and problems with making her extremely up and down. And it's worrisome because, with a kid, he's not going to understand what's happening if you're all of a sudden being really mean to him or really nice to him back and forth or, blaming him for things that are out of his control. It's really a scary thought. It's something courts do have some precedent in basically awarding custody based on things like that. But
Mhm.
as far as the court's gone so far in San Francisco, there's they're on board with her having half custody of him right now.
Really? And is there any way to leave San Francisco or or go somewhere else?
Unfortunately, it's not so simple. You can do it what's called a change of venue
Mhm.
request, and it's something we're definitely considering. But right now, we're just going to appeal this decision from the trial
Mhm.
first. Um, it's something that what I hear is pretty hard to get, but it's definitely something I'd be interested in because I do think I'd have a more fair shot somewhere else.
What's the original decision that you're appealing right now?
The decision is essentially the main gist of it is that custody is going to stay 50-50 as opposed to me having full custody,
Mhm.
as well as I was ordered what doctor he had to see.
That's very interesting. So the court ordered what doctor? Now, is this doctor affirming his non-binary gender?
So she was, and then once I finally proved that I had legal custody, meaning I had right to his medical records and nothing can be treated to him without my consent, I had made her aware that that's not okay.
Mhm.
And her compromise with me is that she'll just call him Sawyer. So she didn't agree to even call him a boy, although she does treat him as male. I don't personally see a difference, but people in San Francisco do. And so she does, as far as I know, treat him as Sawyer and a male, but it's scary. She actually testified in court, this doctor, on behalf of the mother somewhat. Yeah.
Did
Um,
she back up Sawyer's mom's claims that he's
so
non-binary for your
she
old?
didn't make any opinions like that, but she did say, and the court took this seriously, that it's okay to treat them that way, kids that way that are that young. And she said that at her clinic in San Francisco, they tr- they treat kids for that as young as 12, and that there was a place down the street as young as 6. And then when me and Daily Wire, my read, looked up that website of the place that did it as young as 6, we found that they were actually doing it as young as 2 or 3 for kids. I don't know what exactly, but they're somewhat transitioning them, whether it's socially or otherwise, as young as 2 or 3.
Wow. Do you think that includes
medical transitioning as well, because if you start to transition to 2-year-old, they're your patient for a very, very long time.
Yeah, you could certainly make a lot of money. I would hope not, and I would think not. I think that would be too dangerous and too controversial even for them. It's
Yeah.
but I genuinely do not know the answer, how young they'll start giving hormone blockers or other things like that.
I wonder if these clinics take insurance. Do you
Well, I'm not sure about the one that does it for the really young kids. The one he goes to now to see this court-ordered doctor does take insurance.
Okay. I find it so interesting that it's a female doctor. That's one thing I've been exploring a little bit, is this idea that women are meant to be nurturing caretakers and they're meant to protect children. But if you look at, let's say, the drag queen story hours at libraries, most librarians tend to be women. So it's actually women who are welcoming this transgender ideology into the classroom and into their homes with young children under the age of 4. I find that really fascinating. But I do want to talk a bit more about how Sawyer's mom is identifying as non-binary. Have you ever heard of something called Munchausen syndrome by proxy? Do you know what that is?
I'm very familiar with it, Annabella. It's actually called in court now, factitious disorder imposed on another. I keep hearing online a lot of people are using that term you used, or they'll say Munchausen mommies and all these things. And I agree, it's totally crazy. Moms are definitely the ones, from what I gather from my research, that are usually pushing this onto the kids.
Mhm.
As well as they're more likely to be the psychologist, the librarian, as you said, all that sort of stuff. So I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, as a father in court, do you feel that you're getting a fair trial? How does San Francisco handle fathers' rights? Because normally it's all about the mom helping out the woman parent. Normally you don't have this scenario where it's a dad fighting for full custody. So what's that been like?
It's interesting. I can tell you this. So California is very liberal, right? So this is a good
Mhm.
example of a liberal policy that I would agree with, is they're actually more fair towards dads because of that, compared to Texas or South Carolina or something, from the dads I've talked to at least.
Mhm.
And I think that's really great. However, I would still say, even being more fair, it's still extremely likely that the mom's going to get custody in a situation like mine. I mean, I could tell you 27% of dads don't even have any contact with their children,
Wow.
even if they want it.
Mhm.
Um, and that dads only win custody nationwide, 18 full custody 18% of the time. So I do believe it's wouldn't be accurate to say that it's completely fair. And I do believe that sometimes, judges, everyone are human, and that politics could come into play when making decisions. And I think that that's at least a possibility.
Mhm. Now, the other fathers that you've spoken to, are they fathers that are going through this as well, that they're fighting for custody for similar reasons? Or how did you find these dads, or did they find you?
They've reached out to me, or they post. There's one great guy. His program's called Retaining Fatherhood. Trey Burns. He posted a video about me on TikTok, and I saw it. So I reached out to him because he was talking about my Daily Wire article. And so I've
Mhm.
been in contact with him. He's in South Carolina. He has a somewhat different situation, although extremely similar, with his ex-wife and custody of the kids. We shared a lot of similar heartaches and troubles in court. And there's some from the UK I've talked to, disqualified dads, and there's all these people that are just trying to start a movement to show that dads have rights too. And I do believe that's important. I mean, we can look at all these stats, right? Like, the number one thing we see in the success of a kid, or the demise of them, is you see it, if they're only from a single mother household, they're so
Mhm.
likely 70, 80, 90% are going to be homelessness, like
Mhm.
drug addicts, prison, suicide. These people have really high rates of that. So I'm not sure why we're, as a society, not fighting harder to keep dads in the lives of children, especially ones that are willing, which I think is the majority. I don't believe the narrative where people want to say, like, oh, there's all these dads that just walk out. And I know that that happens, and that's horrible and it's tragic. And I'm so sorry
Mhm.
to anyone that's happened to. And I don't know how it's even possible. I mean, all I care about is being there for Sawyer. But
Yeah.
I think a lot of dads are fighting and not getting a fair shot in court.
That's unfortunate. I mean, I think that our society today, our welfare state supports fatherlessness, right? There's a lot of incentive to be a single mom and to continuously have more children without a father. So These statistics that you're giving, they're very heartbreaking, but I'm also glad to hear that there's a lot of fathers that do want to be involved, and the narrative's just a lie that there's all these men walking out on their kids. It's not true. I think that you're a beacon of hope in that matter, and I really hope that your appeal goes well. Now, if you are awarded full custody of Sawyer, are you going to stay in California?
I don't want to make any claims of what I will hypothetically do in case this was shown in court.
Totally
But
understand.
I would definitely can tell you I would do what I think is best for Sawyer's life and future as well as mine.
Do you think that would include having a relationship with his mother?
Yeah, I would hope that. I mean, the greatest thing ever would be if she could come to light of a sane reality where she accepts Sawyer for who he is and was
Mhm.
loving and had her mental illness under complete control. I mean, obviously, I think that would be the best thing for Sawyer to have visitation with his mother and stuff. But I think right now, considering all the circumstances, the best thing for him would be to live with me full time, but still see her.
Mhm, mhm. It sounds like you're getting a lot of support from people. Are you getting any negative backlash?
There's been a little bit, a couple people commented, I write songs, and a few people have said some stuff on some of my music videos. I found it kind of humorous.
Really? Where? On what platform?
On like YouTube and Instagram, I've seen a couple things, and on Twitter, some people were disparaging me, randomly making stuff up on the Daily Wire article. But for the most part, it's like 98, 99% positive. Actually, I'm unbelievably thankful. It's amazing. I hope to be, like you said, a beacon of hope. I hope that other dads and parents, doesn't have to be a dad, anyone, everybody will just stand up to protect children. Like, this is our moment in time. This is all happening now. It's gone on too long. We're drawing a line in the sand. This is it. We're going to stop it. We're going to protect kids. We're going to be remembered as the ones that protected kids when it came down to it. Like, I'm ready to be a part of that. I know you are. You're wonderful, and thank you for having me. I think it's a good moment.
It is, and thank you for your kind words. I'm really glad that you came. I mean, when I came forward with my story that I was indoctrinated in college, and I told you I used to be a total leftist. You heard my story on Alex Clark's The Spillover podcast. I've had so many people flood my inboxes with support. Of course, I've had, quite a few people with some hateful words, but the majority of people are supportive, and you'd be surprised how many families are experiencing what mine experienced, which was the brainwashing and then breaking down of the family union. I didn't speak to my parents. I didn't speak to any of my childhood friends for a while. And I'm not the only person that's gone through that. A lot of parents have reached out saying that their kids went away and then all of a sudden stopped speaking to them. So that just even shows, I mean, I was 18, 19, 20, and I was that impressionable. So I can only imagine the kind of impact this has on a 3-year-old, right? I was blessed that I was able to come out of it, and now I'm able to talk to people and help people. But I really feel for kids under the age of 18 or up until, I mean, 25. They say that's when your brain is finished being developed. So I definitely, I relate to feeling this call to action, if you will, doing something. And you're definitely on the right side, and you're standing up for dads everywhere.
Yeah, thank you. It is unimaginable to think like 3-year-olds could even comprehend something like this. They're just seeing the world as it is, observing their basic reality. And when you tell them things that don't align with that, and it's just confusing, and it's only going to hurt them. And yeah, I'm
Yeah.
so thankful too that you came back to reality after college.
Children don't really understand nuances. That you can't tell a child about a gender binary. They just won't get it. You can tell a college student, and I guess it's their, free will to sort of do with it what they please, but a child doesn't understand it. And that's why it's so detrimental to give a kid the option, right? I think that we're seeing eating disorders go down, levels of anorexia are going down, but then gender dysphoria is going up. So there's still this like sickness and confusion within society. And there's an underlying issue. I think you said this earlier, the answer isn't changing everything about yourself. Like, let's get to the root of the issue. Let's figure out what's wrong. I empathize for Sawyer's mom, because obviously there's a deeper rooted issue that she's going through. And she's expressing that as being non-binary, and she's probably I'm speculating that she's projecting it onto your son. That's what it sounds like. That's what I read when I read the article. That's how I interpret it. I also understand, having been in a state of anxiety and depression and being obsessed with leftism and those ideas, that it kind of encompasses everything. And it's very hard to break free of unless you're humble and willing to be like, okay, maybe I was wrong. I'll say a prayer for her. Are you someone, do you pray? Do you have any sort of higher power?
Yeah, I believe in God. I'm a Christian. Actually, this whole situation's made me really dive into that more, kind of like go all in, so to speak, on it. I believe God, it's like an act of God that I have all this support in Daily Wire and I give Send Go, and I'm talking to you right now. It's like the ultimate proof. If anyone needed it, it's definitely the way to live.
Were you raised in a faith?
We always prayed. We weren't like super religious, and I actually I would go to the most fun summer church camp with my friends every year. It was called Hume Lake. It was like the funnest time of our lives. It was so cool. And I remember I got myself baptized there, and it was a lot of fun, and it really got those and it's funny because I was really mostly going for the fun, but but at the same time, it still put these ideas in my mind enough that it's something that I always held on to and believed in. And then now, as I told you, I'm about it.
Well, they do say if you're rooted in it and you stray away, you'll eventually come back. So
Right.
is Sawyer to be baptized? Has he been baptized?
So it's an interesting situation. I'm not exactly sure how the legalities work yet, but it's a hard thing with joint legal custody in California. You can't make religious decisions without the other parent's consent. So I do genuinely want that, and that will happen, I believe, but it has not yet, and I'm hoping that it can.
I hope so too.
Thanks.
Well,
Yeah.
he's very fortunate to have you. How can people find you? How can people help you?
I'm on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Harrison Tinsley. It'll come up.
Okay. Okay, great. And what kind of music do you play?
I make like uplifting rock songs, sing along rock songs, kind of alternative rock, pop, punky. Check them out for sure.
Yeah, I will.
I have one for Sawyer. It's called It's a Boy. I have one for our veterans called Stars and Stripes.
Sounds amazing. I'll definitely look. Well, thank you so much for your time and coming on and talking about Sawyer. I'll be following your story very closely and doing anything I can to help spread awareness and get more people in your camp.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, Annabella.
Of course. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks. Take care.
Bye.